Hello, everyone. College, retention specialist and provost. This presentation is specifically geared towards you to explain how we at Bandit Publishing are going to stop the dropout crisis and close the technology gap. And these tools that you see before you, to the left corner, a model and a value matrix, a formula, and a logic statement, are the tools that we're going to use to teach your students how to make the most powerful and dangerous technology in the world, something called a disruptive innovation. We are the only tech ed company in the world currently teaching Black and Latin students what these disruptive technologies are and how to make them. Uber, Amazon, Netflix, Tesla, these are all disruptors. They're the most lucrative technology. They turn engineers into billionaires and trillionaires. They're only taught at the Ivy League. And we are going to disrupt the education system by providing this skill set to everyone. That's what disruptors do. So CEOs sit in their offices terrified that some kid is going to come up with an idea for a new disruptor, and they basically kill Fortune 500 companies. They level the playing field. They're literally corporate warfare. They destroy an entire industry, rebuild a whole new one, and make their creator a billionaire in the process. Again, only taught at the Ivy League, and we are going to teach everyone to do this so that everyone can defend themselves against these disruptors that are on their way. So we've created specific tools, watered down engineering tools. Engineers are the ones that make these. I'm an engineer. And we've created simple tools so that you don't have to be an engineer to do this. You can, whether you study journalism or music or philosophy, you will have the skill sets and tools necessary to create disruptors just like any engineer from any Ivy League school. So we're going to basically, our strategy is to put everyone eye to eye with the disruptive engineers that are right now in the president's cabinet. Elon Musk is the de facto president because he's a disruptor. So we're going to teach everyone to do this, and this is so seductive that the strategy is that kids will feel like, you know what, I don't want to miss out on playing this disruptive game because all the rappers and athletes are talking about it. This is what everyone wants. So I'm not dropping out of school. You'd have to take a blowtorch and light me on fire to get me to drop out because I don't want to miss out on becoming a billionaire. Right now, going to college and going through all that pain and misery and just to get a job is not sexy. Going to college, learning to make a disruptor, and coming out with your own company, your own firm, whether in whatever major you're in, teaching you how to make companies, that's sexy. That's seductive, and that's sexy enough to keep the kids pasted in school until they graduate, hopefully on time. But this is going to, and additionally, in the future, when your graduates go on and become alumni and they do this and they get their companies publicly traded, whether it be Uber or the next Amazon or the next Grubhub or whatever, they'll be able to make those amazing donations back to the university in the form of endowments that historically Black colleges and community colleges don't have that luxury because, again, this is only taught at the Ivy League. At Ivy League schools, they tell the kids, no matter how much money a company offers to pay you, don't take the job unless you have plans to disrupt the industry it's in. Your university has to indoctrinate your students the same way, and that will close the technology gap quickly, catapult them to the top of technology, and it should stem this dropout crisis that these disruptors like TikTok and Instagram are influencing your students to drop out. That should end. So my name is Bintel Powell. I went to Northeastern University. I studied electrical engineering and worked in the tech industry for 35 years. I had friends that went to Ivy League schools, and this notion of making a disruptor and how technology is used to create billions of dollars was kept a secret from me. So this, for me, is an act of revenge, to be completely frank. I'd like to be known as the engineer that created or was the catalyst for a Black technological renaissance. Right now, Black and Latin children are dead last in the technology race, with technology scheduled to eat every industry and disrupt all these different industries and put thousands, hundreds of millions of people out of work. This is something that I believe we have to do. And we want to create a new breed of technology CEOs, which is long overdue. A lot of the technology that's been used to create these tech firms were invented by black engineers and black technologists who never got their flowers. So what I want to do is create just a whole tidal wave of black technology disruptors that can level the playing field. Right now, from a demographic standpoint, Asian and Indian and white males dominate big tech. Dominate. And, technology, some of these technology CEOs, their companies are worth more than small countries. And black and brown children are not involved in this at all. So this is something that you can judge the health of an economy by how their tech sector is doing. The black community has no tech sector. And, I really like this image here because it really says to the kids that graduate, money. All right, well, that's what we need to do. We need to equate tons of money, because the rappers and athletes are in their face telling them that you need to drop out, you're a wankster, you're not a boss. All right, and the kids have a lot of angst and anxiety about this, as did I. I chased rappers and athletes all around for 10 years, 20 years, confused that I studied engineering. How come I'm not making the most money? And when I found out that this disruptive technology was kept a secret from me, I was furious. So this is the nexus of the formula, and I really like this image because this is what we want to drill into their heads. Graduation, money, lots of money. All right. And we want to basically make it a stigma to drop out, because if you drop out, you can count yourself out of the disruption game forever. And, that's how we want to basically hypnotize them with this notion of a disruptor and a unicorn company, the way Mike Tyson's trainer, Customato, hypnotized him to be the first and youngest heavyweight champion ever. That's what we're doing. And this image is congruent to that. So for the last 16 years, we've been pioneering a genre of STEM called E-STEM, where we mix entrepreneurship and STEM, or science, technology, engineering, and math. It's a buzzword, right? And what we're doing is, instead of the way engineering is taught now, which attributed to the 90% dropout rate at the university that I went to, Northeastern. Northeastern had a 90% dropout rate of its engineering department in its first semester. People dropping like flies, right? Somehow I survived. Is we're not teaching kids just to do the math and hopscotch through all the stuff that they don't know, and crying and like, I don't know what I'm studying, right? We're not doing that. We're teaching them how to take technology and make new next generation tech, right? Creating new technology and creating is a viscerally more academic experience than just doing all the math and not knowing what you're doing and just being abused academically, which is the way I learned. All right, and I learned this way, and they do this because the government doesn't want all of this getting out in the public and there be too many disruptors. That would be anarchy for them. So they only keep it to where the Ivy League kids know what disruptors are and how to make them, and they let them loose to disrupt us and basically incarcerate us with their tech. And that's what's happening right now. We are being incarcerated with tech. We are in a technology war, make no mistake about it. So eSTEM allows your students to disrupt the disruptors. TikTok is not being banned because it's a threat to national security. It's being banned because its CEO went to a school in England, and you research it, his school is a better disruptor than the schools in America. If you research his name, which I did, and then go to his school, you'll see it right on the landing page. Teaching disruption since 1865 or something. So this is not a new concept, the notion of disruption. It's also called creative destruction. This is what CEOs are about, the C-suite. And this is very seductive. And your kids, if you tell them this, you tell them, listen, I don't want you to be disruptive in your class. I want you to take all this that I'm teaching you, and I want you to go out into the public, and I want you to break stuff. I want you to be disruptive in every industry. In their mind, they're going to say, teacher, this is something I can do. Now, just as proof that this disruption innovations thing and engineering and innovation is critically important, This is a chart, which is the language of the top 1% and the people who are going to be hiring your students. They don't speak in words many times. They speak in these charts, or which are pictures that describe sales and earnings, right? Which is the Achilles heel of many engineers, because the stereotype is that engineers are nerds, and you see old movies with them with glasses and fumbling and being unarticulate and not charismatic, allegedly, but that which is not true. Engineers, when they can speak and they develop that skill set, blow everybody else out the water as far as sales is concerned. The smartest engineer. But what I'd like to draw your attention to is the fact that on this timeline here, you see disruptive innovation is where things start, right? So if we want our kids to play in this entrepreneurial game, which entrepreneurs make companies, and when you have more companies in a community, that community is economically healthy, and economically healthy communities produce the best students. So it just stands to logic that teaching entrepreneurship is the way to cure most of our ills in our community, right? When kids drop out of school, they start selling drugs, property value go down, and that's bad for everyone, right? So the reason I'm spelling this out is that, if you look on that chart, they even have value engineering, which is something that they only teach what value is to the salespeople, which I happen to be. And the engineers make the value, the salespeople sell it. All companies are made of those two parts, the part that engineers the product and the part that sells it. I'm speaking to this because in the past, in my 16 years, sometimes superintendents say, hey, we don't need Bintel. We have engineers and we have entrepreneurial teachers. We can go ahead and do this without him, right? Which is a logical thought process. What I want to warn you of is that, for one, most engineers, as I said before, don't have the sales skill set. They're incredible calibrationists. A calibrationist is someone who can calibrate your tech, right? Make sure that it's calibrated. Make sure that your RPMs is at a certain speed, and that your car is not idling too high or too low, right? They can tweak the numbers and calibrate it so that your car is humming at like it's brand. But the person who can conceive of a new car, of a whole new industry, that's a founder, that's a trailblazer, that's a leader, all right? That's why they call the CEO and founder, because that person found this whole industry. That's why that's such a revered term, all right? And what tends to happen in our communities academically is that somebody invents some new technology, robotics, and then everybody's doing robotics. And then somebody invents AI, and then everybody's doing AI, right? But we need to teach kids the genre of disruption and unicorns. And a unicorn is just a company with disruptors in it that's doing $1 billion in sales in its first year. And that's how the company gets to the NASDAQ. And that's all about sales, which I happen to be a sales engineer. So I prototypically have both of those skill sets, and that's my value to you. And when people say, hey, we don't need Mr. Powell, we're going to do this themselves, they don't realize that there's a whole host of factors that go into this. Do your engineers have the sales acumen to do this, or are you going to split this between your marketing department and your engineering department? That could, but marketing and sales are not the same thing. All right, sales is a theater. Marketing is a theater for sales, and vice versa. All right, but head-to-head sales is a different thing, and the two merge in the field of revenue and sales. But that's why. That's my leverage. That's my positioning to you. That's why you should hire Bintel Powell and not just say, hey, I'm going to take this and I'm going to go get his book and try to do this on my own, because your engineering teachers don't have the sales acumen. They can develop it and they can be amazing in the future. But right now, if you go to them and you say, hey, what's a disruptor? They're not going to say they don't know what it is. Why would they say that? That would be ridiculous. No smart human being would do that, and they are definitely smart. But if you tell them, well, how are you? They don't know what models are and business models are and sales strategies. When I come in and I start giving your students all these sales secrets and tactics and strategies that they can use after they create their disruptor, that's when they sort of fall in love with me. All right. So it's one thing to create the product. That's a neat trick. But then it's almost just as, if not more, difficult to sell it. And that's what I'm trying to do to you now. So I'm basically, letting you know why it will be a waste of money. Superintendents have tried it and failed. A whole superintendent took it and tried to disseminate it through her entire district, and it flopped, and she was then let go, and she's now retired. I knew what she was doing when she was doing it, but I couldn't prove it until some other superintendent told me, yeah, I was in charge of putting it in the schools, and we took your idea. So I'm preemptively saying that this is why I am valuable to you. I can give your students the engineering component and the sales component, and I can also help your engineers to become superstar salespeople, so that you can so all of your teachers, all of them, no matter what their major is, can talk disruption and unicorn companies at the same milligram dosage to your students, and that would be really something special. So the first thing we got to do is give your kids the book. You can give it to the freshmen. I suggest you give it to the entire university and make a statement. And the book cover I'm not saying that I read Malcolm X's autobiography in college, and it was a life-changing read for me. I'm not saying I'm like Malcolm X by any means. I don't want to even put that out there at all, but it's an autobiography of me and my life, discovering this formula in the corporate sector and in college. So the cover, psychologically, I think says volumes to your kids that, hey, we want you to go out here and we want you to make money. This becomes the expectation. And when you're in college, nobody talks about money to you, not in the engineering class. They just throw formulas at you and try to fail you out, right? So I think, my take is that we need to aggressively let the kids know that we want you to make money. And in this book, I talk about making money and my confusion and me being in the corporate sector trying to fit in as a black man. When I wrote the book, I made sure that you could read it and not know that it's a black man who wrote it, because I didn't want Ron DeSantis down in Florida banning my book because it's too black. So if you read it, you won't know that it's black. That it's not skewed to the black experience, which I did by design. But it's about me in the corporate sector playing at this level, trying to compete and trying to figure out how I'm going to, make millions of dollars. So basically the kids buy into me. They buy into my story, all these fantastical stories about me hanging out with celebrities and going to Monte Carlo and winning President's Club level trips and driving Range Rovers. I mean, it's aspirational, it's flashy, and it's almost like a corporate rap song. if you want to think about it, it's unabashed about making money, but it's also this hint of engineering. So it's half autobiographical, half engineering manual textbook to make disruptor and unicorn company. So what we can do with this is that we can take some of the tools that I showed you before, and we can analyze how other great entrepreneurs created their companies and reverse engineer them and do case studies, which is incredibly profound for your kids. So they can basically take this formula, these tools, and figure out exactly, storyboard the evolution of any company. And they know exactly how they did it from one step to the other, how they came up with new ideas and created something called a lifestyle brand. Disruptors and unicorns, essentially, when they're really hot and they're selling, like right now, who's really hot? Nike's hot, I guess. Carhartt, from an apparel standpoint, oh my God, they are killing it. All right, so your kids could basically analyze Carhartt as a apparel company, figure out its history and do a case study on it, and then model that out in their own company or in their own major. So whatever company is hot in your kid's major, in your kid's discipline, they can take that company, pull it apart over time, historically, copy it, make it better, and supercharge it. And that's dangerous. That's profound. So the key to financial for getting your company on the NASDAQ, which is where the kids become billionaires, engineers become billionaires, is the term value. You have to make sure that your company has a minimum of $1 billion valuation. The problem is nobody knows what value is. The only people that are taught academically, purposefully, what value is are the salespeople, which I happen to be. We use value to show you, demonstrate our value to you, value proposition, value add, stock market. Value is everything. The engineers create the value and the salespeople sell it. Your kids cannot add value to society. It is highly improbable that they're going to be able to do that if they don't have a clear academic understanding of what value is. It's literally impossible. It's like hidden in plain sight that this is the Achilles heel, and this understanding of value and something else called pain, which we will explain later, which we go into grave detail, is how we hog tie your students to college and make sure that they don't drop out. Their understanding of value and their ability to cure pain and endure pain is why we can show them that if you can't take the pain of finishing college, why would I value you as an employee or as a C-level employee? Why would I invest money in you? And once you can stigmatize them like that and get them to understand that and reinvent their own value proposition to themselves, you won't be able to get them to drop out. They'll see it as a curse. They'll see it as a sign of weakness. And if we can get the girls to stigmatize the boys that dropping out means that you're not tough enough to play in this disruption unicorn $1 billion valuation game, that's it. Then we can go to our graves knowing that the black community is safe, because he or she who can create and sell value wins in the game of capitalism or socialism or whatever ism you want. It's all about value, but you cannot do that unless you know what value is. And in this book, I explain what value is so that everyone knows now. Now, I really like this because once the kids, this is just like a bonus, some of the cool things we can do. Once the kids understand value and see themselves as a business, because they are the business, right? This philosophy is that first people buy you, and then they buy the product you're selling. So you are essentially the business. You are the product. You and the product that you create are a package deal. And once the kids understand that, and because we give them this model here, which is the framework of a business model, a universal business model, that's what I'm saying we're giving your kids, so that they can model out everything, anything that has to do with, a successful financial transaction. They can start engineering themselves into these different income types, which I thought was amazing when I found this out. I didn't know that there were different types of income, but there are different, as I'm sure you folks know, there are different types of income. And they can engineer with this model different types of incomes for themselves, which is really empowering. Really empowering. And I mean, these are just some of the, I thought this was really cool. When the kids see this, their eyes get all big and they're like, really? And because this is what they want. They want to learn about money. Another cool trick, another feature and benefit of this from the language arts perspective is that we can teach your kids with the model, this universal business model that's in the book, how to read the Wall Street Journal and how to watch, the Bloomberg channel or any financial show on television, with all these stocks, picks, and things you see here at the bottom. They will be able to understand that. We can teach them how to read the Wall Street Journal, and I heard someone say that if you read the Wall Street Journal every day for 2 years and look up all the words and understand it, that is the equivalent of a master's degree in business administration. And you can put that on your resume. Everyone knows that, right? So Right now, your kids. I remember senior year, a professor, an African American Studies professor at Northeastern, Professor White, who is the reason why I created these 2 books that I've written. Called us out that we couldn't read. He taught at Harvard one semester and came back to Northeastern angry at us because he felt that we were being shortchanged. And he made us read Toni Morrison's book out loud in front of the class like we were in elementary school and forced us to read. All right. So this is an homage to him, Professor White at Northeastern. I owe him this. This is as much of his doing as it is my mother's. But so with this rubric, the model that you get, one of the tools that I invented that I showed in the first slide, we can teach the students how to basically read through any financial publication, whether it be the Wall Street Journal or Financial Times. And once they do that, and they start to hear, they start to hear the word valuations and disruption, and they start to realize that, whoa, what I'm learning is going to catapult me into this sector of society. Their confidence grows, and they're like, I'm not leaving. I have to stay here. I have to graduate from here. And you don't have to then lecture them. They'll be reading these things, and it'll accelerate their understanding of why they have to stay in college and exactly how they're going to go about doing it. So they'll get the how and the why quickly, and it'll make your life a lot easier as an educator. Now this is really empowering. We teach the kids how to invent new technology with this understanding of value, and we impose it or install it inside this logic statement, which is very much like the if-then logic statement. I created this. Anytime anybody creates anything, our thesis is that this is the mechanics of the thought process of innovation of any new disruptor. And it's a synthesis of the scientist and the engineer. So these great entrepreneurs, they're not just engineers, they're also scientists. They can discover and engineer. Right? They can discover value and engineer value. So if your kids don't even know what value is, it's highly unlikely that they're going to be able to do this. So we can basically teach them how to use this logic statement and innovate and reverse engineer on demand. So they can take somebody else's product and use this logic statement to figure out, and their understanding of value, to figure out exactly how they came up with the idea. And then they can re-engineer it, they can value engineer it like we saw on that chart before, and they can make it better, or they can make it worse. They can. This is a very dangerous skill set to have. And now with this logic statement, everyone can do it. So, just to talk about valuation and the formula, you see it here. Value is equal to these elements, and from a money perspective, it expounds into success is equal to value over time, right? Which value is basically value, or money is the exchange of value using a currency. That's what money actually is. So your students know what money is. We always tell people, make money, make money, make money. Well, how can you essentially make money if you really have no concrete intrinsic understanding of what money actually is? And with this formula, and looking at it from an acute understanding of value, with this formula, not only do your kids know what money is, they understand that value is really basically another term for money. Money is just a representation of value. That money is just a measured amount of value. That's what money is. $5, $3, a quarter. It's a 25 cents worth of value, right? And that allows your students to be super salespeople, because nobody buys price. That's the old adage in the corporate world. Nobody buys price. People buy value. And it will turn your students into super salespeople so that they can create a unicorn. This is another neat little trick. We teach the kids to write a Super Bowl television commercial with that same understanding of value. And this is probably one of the most popular lessons, all right? This is Warren Buffett. Price is what you pay. Value is what you get. So their understanding of value basically gives them the ability to make the product and then sell it hand to hand, one on one, or become the genius marketer like the late great Steve Jobs. So they really have all bases covered to make a company regardless of what their major is. This is not just for the business administration kids so that they can bully the engineers around, which is what happens in these tech companies. They bully the sales engineer around, slap him around and say, do the proposal so I can go out and sell it. The engineer that can sell is literally a one-man band. He's like Lenny Kravitz. He can play every instrument. And that's what we want every student to be, regardless of their major. We want them to be able to create the product and sell it on an international scale. Now, venture capitalists out in Silicon Valley, where all of these new disruptors and unicorn companies get funded when they're little babies, they don't take place in the office most times. They take place on the golf course. I remember I was working for this one VoIP company, and the CEO used to sit right in front of me. He used to be in his office, and his clear office, and I would see him with his golf clubs. And he graduated from Harvard, and he would literally get up and be like, yeah, I'm getting on the plane. I'm going to Vegas to meet with a venture capital. We're going to play with a venture capital company. We're going to play golf. So, our kids need to know that golf is really about developing relationships, and you don't only have to learn how to play basketball and football. Golf is a sport that can bring you billions. And so we get them started early. We take the kids to play golf when they're in junior high school, and hopefully you will too in college. So in closing, what we're teaching them to do is disrupt and reinvent entire industries, not run behind other people that are disrupting and inventing industries. We're teaching them to be the leaders, trailblazers, to be able to see value where other people can't see it, and create entire new genres of industry which will produce prosperity in their neighborhoods, which is what we want. We have to teach our kids to invent, maintain, and profit from their own labor, in the infamous words of the great Marcus Garvey.